Hello and welcome everyone to our SLG webinar, Getting to Grips with the PKSB. Barbara Band will be talking us through this, and you will have plenty of chance to ask questions afterwards, and we will also be monitoring the chat box. So enjoy the webinar, and we hope that you get a lot out of it and you're enabled to carry on with your chartership journey very well. Thank you.
Right, okay, good morning everyone. Now, I have no idea what stage you're at with regard to your chartership journey. I assume that you're registered, which is why you're here, but you may not even be registered, you may just be thinking about it. And some of you may already have selected your PKSB areas you want to work on, but I suspect that a lot of you haven't. I've registered for my fellowship a while ago, I should say. I'm not telling you how long ago it was, and I haven't progressed very far because I have still yet to decide on the areas of the PKSB I'm going to concentrate on. So I'm aware of how this stage, this step can be a barrier. I also know from discussion with my mentees that the PKSB is often a stumbling block for making progress. So I'm going to assume that you're all at the beginning of the journey, and apologies if I go over information that you already know. I need to just, no, let's go on that. There we go, good. I always slightly wary until I've managed to move the first slide on, you know. So, now in today's session, I want to look at the structure of the PKSB, how it all fits together and why we use it, the role it plays in your chartership, and selecting sections that are relevant to you. I also want to give you some practical examples of how you can link what you're doing in your libraries to the PKSB and hopefully answer any questions you may have. When I chartered, we didn't have the PKSB, and I have to be honest, my reaction on first seeing it, we were all sent hard copies through the post. My reaction was, think, what on earth is this? And I filed it, you know. But as mentor, I knew I had to get to grips with it and try to understand what it was all about. It wasn't really until, and because I didn't need to fill it in, I'd already chartered, I went online, read about it, etc. But it wasn't really until I collaborated with the SLG on creating a PKSB for school librarians that I totally got my head around it. So don't worry if you've taken one look at the PKSB and have no idea what your next step is. A quick word about the PKSB for school librarians. The SLG created this document a while ago, but as the PKSB has been updated recently, it needs revisiting. What we are also hoping to do is create an online version accessible from the SLIP website. It's currently just a Word document, and we're in discussion with SLIP about that. The Health Librarians SIG have done this, so we'll be using the same template for continuity. However, the existing document is still very relevant. The PKSB was developed in consultation with employers, practitioners, sector experts and learning providers. Most people use it as a framework for their professional registration, but it can be used for career planning as it highlights your strengths and weaknesses and the areas you want to or need to develop moving forward. It can also be used in your appraisal, although I'm not quite sure what reaction you'd get if you put it in front of your line manager. I do feel this last aspect, using it for appraisals, may work better within other more structured library environments. I also think that career development for school librarians is very different. Generally, there's no hierarchy like in many other sectors. As a solo librarian, which a lot of us are, where do you progress to if you want to stay in the role? You may be able to expand horizontally into other educational aspects, such as careers or becoming a tutor, but we don't move up the school structure into head of year, deputy head, and so on. If we do want to widen our experience and expertise, this often happens outside of the school, within SIG committees or by working voluntary on collaborative programs with other organisations. But if you do think that you might want to change sectors and move into, for example, higher education or health librarianship, and I know school librarians who have done this, then the PKSB can be helpful to identify useful skills needed for this. A PKSB has the following elements. The core principles of ethics and values in the middle are central to your professional practice and underpin everything else. Encircling the PKSB, enclosing it and relevant to all the sectors contained within are professional development, organisational and environmental context, and the wider library, data, information and knowledge content. These represent commitment to CPD, the application of your knowledge and skills to improve your service, the sharing of good practice to build a body of professional knowledge, and the contribution to and understanding of the wider profession. The main body of 13 sections represents professional expertise, those skills and knowledge unique to the library profession, and generic, often called transferable skills found within many professions. Each of the sections under professional expertise and generic skills are broken down into 6 to 12 further areas with a description. The important thing to remember is that the whole PKSB is a detailed framework for all of those working in the profession to use. It covers every sector, so not everything in it is going to be relevant to you as a school librarian. In the centre of the PKSB are ethics and values. These are based on 7 principles that make up SLIP's ethical framework. This is the result of an extensive review overseen by the Ethics Committee, which was chaired by past President Dawn Finch and was approved by the board in September 2018. These principles underpin the profession, and they are human rights, equality and diversity, the public benefit and the advancement of the wider good of our profession to society, preservation and continuity of access to knowledge, intellectual freedom, including freedom from censorship, impartiality and the avoidance of inappropriate bias, confidentiality of information provided by clients or users and the right of all individuals to privacy, and the development of information skills and information literacy. Now, what you may not realise is that ethics and values can be one of the PKSB areas selected for your portfolio. If you are interested in exploring this further, perhaps in relation to your own service and organisation or within the wider profession, the SLIP Equalities and Diversity Action Plan was superseded by the Changing Lives Manifesto in 2019. This was last reviewed in December 2021, so a couple of months ago, and covers the next 5 years. SLIP also have 3 diversity networks: the BAME network, though I suspect that acronym will change, the Disability Network and the LGBTQ+ network. All members can join any of these and sign up for more information. So professional development, this aspect is personal and involves a commitment to keeping your skills and knowledge up to date, identifying areas for improvement, undertaking relevant CPD and applying your learning in practice and reflecting on the impact of this. The organisational and environmental context aspect of the PKSB relates to your library service and involves examining your service, evaluating your service performance and considering how to improve it. This can be difficult for solo librarians to do because effectively you are evaluating yourself, because there really is only you providing the service. And that means being self-critical, which can be, as I said, it's quite hard sometimes to be self-critical. But it's important to be honest about whether you're providing the best service you could, how you could improve it, and the barriers that are preventing you from doing so. And to recognise that these may be due to outside factors, things like lack of support, both from teaching staff and senior management team, time, budgets, even a change of school priorities. Your portfolio is not going to be assessed on this. You are not going to be marked down because you cannot provide the best service, you want to provide.
Yeah, you can do, yeah. Just leave it open a little bit for Jess.
Right, the wider library data, information and knowledge sector context. The final element that circles the PKSB involves expanding your knowledge of the wider sector to enhance your skills and inform your practice, reflecting on areas of common interest, reflecting on the differences between your sector and others, and contributing to the body of shared knowledge. What's important to remember here is that you're not expected to know about every other sector. You need to widen your scope. You need to show that you're not in a comfortable bubble that only encompasses school libraries. And I know we like to stay in that bubble, don't we? It's a comfort zone. But many people select a sector that they have an interest in. This could be public libraries, academic libraries, prison libraries. I had a mentee who investigated archives and ended up volunteering at her local record centre after she visited them. It's surprising how similar many of the sectors are, and that the issues we face are comparable. I've been to an academic and research libraries group, the ARLG conference, and so many of the sessions were relevant to school librarians. It made me wonder why we've never collaborated with them on something. It can also be useful to see how other librarians deal with issues they have, as this can inform our own service. Sharing of good practice should not be confined within a sector, and I'm all for partnerships between librarians, regardless of where they work. Whilst I'm talking about the wider sector, I want to explore this element of your portfolio because I know it's an area people aren't sure how to get information or experience about. You are not expected to know about another sector in depth. The CPD budget in most schools is quite small. And if you, as the librarian, are lucky to get some of it, then your CPD usually has to relate directly to your role, the school's priorities, or Ofsted's agenda. This means many school librarians undertake CPD in their own time, as you're doing now, often paying for themselves. And for most people, time and money are in short supply, so they will prioritise CPD that directly relates to their role. It's understandable. However, there are ways in which you can engage with other sectors. SILIP Special Interest Groups, SIGs, are an easy way of finding out more about what other librarian and information professionals do. You can join as many as you like. It used to be just 2, and if you wanted to join more, it was £10. But a few years ago, they said, right, you can join however many you like. So have a look at the list on the website and see which you might think will be interesting for you. You know, where are your personal interests lie? Most have e-newsletters you can subscribe to, and reading these regularly will give you a feeling for that sector, as well as sometimes highlighting further research or webinars. Also, make sure you've signed up for newsletters from your member network. Many run useful webinars that are often online, so easily available to everyone. I've just received notification of the free SILIP Northeast Virtual Conference being held on the 16th of May. You'll find the SIGs listed in special interest groups and the member networks listed under SILIP Near You, and both of these can be found under the orange community tab at the top of the SILIP homepage. Okay. If you sign up for something and then find it's not really interesting, you just unsubscribe. You know, it's not going to matter really. But it's quite a good way of, you know, staying in touch and finding out what other people are doing. And don't forget also the Devolved Nations, you can sign up for their newsletters as well. Now, the Knowledge Hub, this can be found under News and Insights orange tab on that homepage, and there are lots of useful links here. For example, under current issues, there's a link to a research report on the impact of AI, machine learning, automation and robotics on the information profession. Will this impact on school librarianships, or is it more likely to affect other sectors? I've not read the report, so I don't know, I can't tell you. But if you're interested, you'll have to have a read yourself. Under the Knowledge Hub is a link to professional journals that are available to SILIP members. What I should mention here is that these resources can be accessed from more than one point on the SILIP website. For example, they are also listed under member benefits. Now, members get access to LISA, which is Library and Information Science abstracts, and ProQuest Library Science, which complements LISA by giving you access to hundreds of research topics. They can access the full range of texts of a range of SAGE journals, including the Journal of Information Science and IFLA Journal, amongst others. And there's also access to business information review articles. Now, many of these may not be relevant to you, but if there's an area of interest or topic you want to explore further, then it's worth having a browse to see what you can find. Whilst we're talking about journals, let's not forget Information Professional. It's had a revamp in recent years and highlights many aspects of the wider sector in short, bite-sized pieces that are quick to read. SLG also have a feature in every issue now, and if you'd rather read it online, then it's available in that format too. And there's a huge range of learning opportunities on the SLIP website as well, which you can access via e-learning or learn in your lunch hour. Again, look under member benefits for these. One of the things that can be quite useful and fun to do is visit other libraries. This obviously depends on whether you have the time and local opportunities, but I've found that if you contact the librarian, explain your undertaking chartership and would like a quick visit and chat about their library, then most are only too happy to help. You may have a special collection in one of your public libraries. We've got a military collection in the Aldershot Library, and we also actually have a military library run by the Army in town, which I've never been to, so I really should go along and have a look at it sometime. Larger towns will have archives. You might be near a university. Once you start exploring other sectors, it's surprising where you find libraries. Sometimes SLIP member networks organise visits. I went with the South East Network to have a tour of the library at the Royal Horticultural Society Gardens at Wisley. I'd visited the gardens many times. In fact, I'm a member of the RHS, but I had no idea there was a library there. So it was quite interesting. Lots of very old seed catalogues and things like that. So I've put this slide up just to show you how you can filter the resources on the e-learning hub by PKSB headings, by sector and by resource type. So it's really useful. You don't have to plough through, everything that's up there. Now, all of these opportunities I've mentioned, other than the visits, are available to SLIP members, and I've not gone outside the organisation or even away from my computer to access them. So you can see how easy it is to explore the wider section from your desk or from your sofa with a G&T if you prefer. Now, professional expertise and generic skills. Having looked at the wider elements that encompass the whole process, I'd like to move on to professional expertise and generic skills. If you've had a look at the PKSB, which most of you probably have, I should think, you will be aware that each of these sections is broken down into areas. So within professional expertise, there are 9 sections. You have collection management and development, which deals with aspects such as stock development and management and building the collection. Data management is a new section and concerns organising and collecting data, identifying data needs and legal compliance. Information exploitation and use covers things like inquiry and search services and using information skills to meet the needs of the community. Information governance and compliance involves developing policies with regards to information use and things like knowledge of copyright and licensing. Information management deals with organising information and resources, cataloguing, classification, something we all do. Knowledge management is concerned with collecting and organising organisational knowledge assets and sharing outcomes. This section actually also has quite a few new areas added. Literacies and learning. I should imagine that most school librarians will select this section as it deals with reading, information, digital and media literacy. Now, media and health literacy are new additions here. Records management and archiving includes evaluating resources for retention or disposal, organising, storing and preserving them. And research covers knowledge of research processes and techniques supporting individual or organisation projects. Now, moving on to generic skills, there are 4 sections. Customer focus, service design and marketing deals with understanding user needs, engaging with stakeholders, developing services. A new area here is events programming and management that a lot of school librarians will be able to identify with. Leadership, advocacy influencing and personal effectiveness is concerned with the management of teams, both inside and outside your organisation, advocacy and working with stakeholders to influence them. Strategy planning and management is all about setting goals and objectives and ensuring the library strategies are in line with the organisation's objectives. And finally, technology and communication is sort of what it says on the box, using a range of tech to manage resources and deliver services. Communication skills can also be found here, and presentation skills has been added in the update. Once you've looked at the sections in more detail and explored what they mean in relation to your role as a school librarian, you begin to see where there are links to what you're doing. And I'm going to show you some examples to demonstrate this. Now, in section 1, collection management and development, area 1.5 deals with collection, evaluation, and information quality. The top description is the one found in the PKSB. And the description underneath is the one that we've put in the PKSB for school librarians. And we've tried to make this document relevant by adding specific examples. Now, I'd hope that we all do ensure our resources are fit for purpose and meet the needs of the school community. But just saying you do that, or even showing how you evaluate resources against collection development policy isn't enough. What you need for your portfolio is evidence of CPD, reflection on how that has affected what you do within your service, and evaluation of the impact of any changes. So if you need to write a collection development policy and carry out a stock audit against it, then this might be a useful area to select. Another example from a different section, section 4, information and governance and compliance, and area 4.3 deals with copyright, intellectual property and licensing. Again, you can see how by expanding on the PKSB explanation, the description for school librarians makes it easier to directly relate to what you do. Okay, so I'm going to just let you have a quick read about it, because I'm aware what I'm saying probably quicker than what's on the screen. Now, customer service skills. This is an example taken from a generic section, which is number 10. Okay, customer focus, service design and marketing. And area 10.3 within this deals with customer service skills. Your customers are your school community, including parents and governors. So sometimes you have to break down the terminology that's used in the PKSB, as it's not always a phrase or word that's found within school libraries or education. And sometimes I find it's the terminology that is the barrier, because you read the PKSB and you think, I don't do that. I've got my job's nothing to do with that. When you break it down, you think, oh, actually, yes, I do that. That's quite a lot. So, as I say, you do need to just break these descriptions down. So the big question, how do you select which areas you're going to include in your portfolio? As I said before, not every area of the PKSB is relevant to school librarians. And even those that are relevant, you will not be selecting all of them. There's too many to focus on. I think there's about 80 in total. You need to select 10 to 12 areas that are relevant to your role or that interest you, either personally or professionally, and the choice is entirely up to you. Now, people sometimes wonder how they can choose an area of personal interest yet still meet the criteria. A good example of this is social media. Your school may not allow you to have any library social media accounts, such as Twitter, yet you may want to develop your skills in this area, learn how to use it, and engage with other librarians, authors, educationalists. So there's nothing preventing you from opening a personal Twitter account that you use for professional purposes. You can undertake CPD on how best to use it, how to find and engage with people to improve your knowledge, and take what you learn back into the library to improve your service, making sure you reflectively evaluate on what you've done and any changes you've made as a result. Whatever PKSB area you choose, remember, you have to meet the criteria, so keep those in mind constantly. And you have to be able to collect evidence and show impact. I can totally understand how trying to choose PKSB areas can be a bit overwhelming. Now, I think there are two ways to approach this. One is to start with the projects you are currently working on or are planning to do in the next year or so. Or you can use those you've done in the past 18 months as retrospective evidence is valid. And then think about how those projects fit into PKSB areas. And it can be useful to create a grid that lists the projects and the corresponding areas with ticks in appropriate boxes, as this will give you an idea of how many areas you've covered and which areas have more than one tick in them, because those are more likely to give you opportunities for evidence and impact. Now, when you come to write up your portfolio, you can link each piece of evidence to several PKSB areas, and this will be done with your evaluative statement. I've taken this image from the SLIP website. Examples of submissions can be found in the member group for professional registration candidates, but a word of warning, they are all very different. And I've had mentees have a look at them and think, panic, because what I'm writing looks nothing like this, okay? So do not worry. Everybody's portfolio is individual, okay? But you can see here, this is just the top of the evidence that was there. They've listed the areas of the PKSB that are relevant to this piece of evidence, okay? So say you have a library project, right? You've started in a new job, in a new school, with a rather tired library, and you want to undertake a stock evaluation. Now, these are some of the PKSB sections that could be relevant to your project, depending on what you do. And you may not have a collection development policy, so that would be your starting point, which is 1.1, collection management. Perhaps you undertake some CPD on how to write this, or you may want to start by analysing, if you've already got policy, analysing information from your LMS, which is 4.8, information audit, and ascertaining the information needs of your school community, 3.2, understanding information seeking behaviour. You do this via needs audit, which might need further research. The next step would be to evaluate the collection, 1.5, collection evaluation and information quality, before selecting resources, 1.3, selection of materials and resources to fill any gaps. Finally, you would want to promote the new collection to the school community. That's area 1.6, collection promotion, via several methods, including presentations, 13.7, presentation skills. And you may not feel your presentation skills are quite up to it, so you do some more CPD on how to deliver a good presentation, or you might do further CPD on promotion techniques and different things you could do. Of course, you would need to evaluate the impact of this project, so you've got 11.3, demonstrating value and impact, not only to your senior management team, but also for your portfolio evidence. So you can see how this project links to several PKSB areas. Right. Another example, one of the school's targets, and I think a lot of them are, is to raise literacy levels of Key Stage 3 boys. This is a perfect project for the school librarian to get involved with. Your first step might be to undertake some CPD into reader development. That's area 7.5, reader development and literacy, to find out the barriers to boys reading, what could be done to remove these, and what other school librarians are doing. You may want to find out what their needs are. 3.2, understanding information seeking behaviour. Then evaluate what you've got in your collection. 1.5, collection evaluation and information quality. Before selecting further resources for purchase, it's 1.3. After doing some research, 9.4, desk research, to find out what's available. Finally, you'll want to make sure they can find the resources in the library. So you've got 3.3, information retrieval, and we'll want to promote them. 1.6 again, collection promotion. And again, you'll need to evaluate the impact of this, 11.3. These two examples I've given mention 16 PKSB areas between them, although 5 are common to both projects. So that gives that, with 2 projects you're doing, 11 PKSB areas within that target of selecting 10 to 12. What's important and is demonstrated here is that the areas are from different sections of the PKSB. Okay, there are 7 sections represented across professional and generic skills, so it's a good spread. And if you want to bring in ethics and values, then the whole aspect of school libraries providing a diverse and inclusive collection will fit into that as well. So ethics and values is a further area. So you've got 12 PKSB areas with these 2 projects. Now, these examples start with a specific project, but there is another approach to this, because you may not have projects like this that you're doing, okay? So the other approach is to start with a PKSB area and consider what activities you do that fit into it. For example, you could select 10.4, engaging with stakeholders, and think about all the ways you do this. So do you manage a library website? Have you had to undertake CPD to learn how to create this? And do you monitor activity on it? Do you send out regular newsletters? Have you done any research into how to create engaging copy? And how do you obtain feedback? Have you used this feedback to change what you're doing? Do you produce an annual report and send it to your SMT and governors? Have you done on any CPD on how to write effective annual reports and what has been the impact of sending them? Do you run library social media accounts? Do you measure the analytics of these and use that information to change your social media behaviour? Do you give talks in assemblies or lessons? Have these had any impact on your library borrowing and usage? The list is almost endless and can encompass engaging with students, staff, parents and governors. But don't forget, you still need to meet the criteria by showing CPD, how you used it to improve your service and reflecting on the impact. You could even bring in the wider sector by looking at how other librarians engage with their stakeholders and whether these strategies that they're using could be useful in your library setting. However, even if you focus on just one area, that 10.4, you'll find you are incorporating others. This example could include 1.6, collection promotion, 3.1, understanding information services, 7.2, digital literacy, 9.5, statistics and statistical analysis, 10.1, customer service skills, 11.3, demonstrating value and impact, 11.4, influencing key stakeholders, 13.5, social media and collaborative tools, and 13.6, communication tools. That's 10 PKSB areas I've listed there. And what they are will depend obviously on what you actually do. But you will rarely find one thing you do covers just one PKSB area, okay? There's no right or wrong way regarding how you approach this. But what you really do have to remember, it's no good just selecting an activity you undertake where you don't have any means of evaluating its impact. So if you are doing something and not gathering that data, so you can show the impact and evaluate it and look back reflectively on it, maybe this is a good time to consider how you can get that sort of feedback to use, okay? Right, I want to move on to how to access the PKSB, and I've pulled out a few screenshots from the website here. It's easy to access the PKSB. You need to log on to Select website, and then across the top, the top bit of this you can see there, across there is all the tabs, the orange tabs. If you click on My Profile, then once you've gone into your profile page, which includes your all your personal information, you then click on Quick Links. At the top, there's another list of tabs at the top in blue this time. You click on Quick Links, and that gives you a drop-down menu and where you'll find the link to the PKSB. You will see from on your screen, this is also another way of accessing those online journals that I mentioned, as there's a quick link there as well. Now, usually you need to log on to the PKSB via the orange tab that you can see there. That's what will come up, Access Online PKSB. And you log on with different details in your Select login, and Select will have sent you these. However, from February the 24th, which is in a few days' time, you will no longer need to sign into the PKSB with a username and password. I've just had an email about this a couple of days ago, because apparently, as long as you're signed in on the Select website, you can then follow the quick link where there will be a pop-up window where you click on submit. So this last box here is what was in my email. So I've no idea if this is actually what you'll see or not, because the website hasn't changed yet, so wasn't able to sort of go down the route myself. Okay, so fingers crossed this is all fine. They do say if you've got any problems, then to email Silip. Okay, so using the PKSB, when you do access the PKSB, this is what you'll see. You've got the PKSB wheel at the top of the screen and 4 boxes underneath. And I'm going to take you through this page. This is the full page, and the next slide it's quite small, you can't see it very well, so I've broken it up into 2 pages really. So across the top you've got home, and that will take you back to the front page that you see now. So whenever you're navigating the PKSB, wherever you are, if you finish what you're doing, you want to get back to this page, you click on home, that takes you back there. The history will give you access to past versions of your PKSB. So as you sort of go through it and save it, it will be recorded in your history. Help takes you to a page with information on getting started, entering your ratings and the reports. The ratings key explains the 5 levels from 0 to 5, and edit profile is where you can change your personal details. Now you can select a PKSB area either via the drop down that says select a PKSB section, or you can select it via the wheel, because the wheel is interactive. Now the drop down box lists all the professional expertise and generic skills. So you then have to choose one of those. So it lists what you can see on the wheel. So you have to choose one of those and then make a further selection. So for example, you select section 5, information management, and then choose from PKSB areas 5.1 to 5.11. If you use the wheel to enter the PKSB, it is just one step to give you that list of areas to use. When you've chosen a section, this is what you'll see. I've chosen section 1 because there are only 6 areas, so I can fit it easier onto the screen. It doesn't have to be so small you can't read it. Okay. There's a brief explanation giving an overview of the section, and like I said, be careful of terminology here, don't let it put you off, followed by a list of the areas and drop downs to enable you to enter your initial, current and target ratings. I'm going to cover those in a minute. There's also a box that had comments. Now, every page has those tabs I mentioned previously along the top. You can see them, home, history, etc. So you can return to the home page from here, okay, every page. And there's a save button at the bottom. You can see, you can save it, you can say you've finished. So you can save your progress. If you're filling in your PKSB and you haven't, only got a short space of time, you've only partly done it, save your progress, okay, and then you can go back to it, okay. Return. Right, you'll notice there's a button, there's a button that says more information. When you click on that, it says hide more information now, but when you click on more information, each area expands to give you a further description, okay. So this might be to get easier way of filling it in. So if you click on more information, it sort of expands the description, and it's another level of help in a way, isn't it? So right, so PKSB ratings. There are 5 ratings. 0 is used when you have absolutely no understanding or experience of that area whatsoever. 1 is for basic awareness or understanding. 2 is if you feel you have a good understanding of the concepts, principles and theories. 3 shows a comprehensive understanding of that subject. And 4 is an advanced rating indicating specialist knowledge and understanding, and you being recognised as an expert in this area. The ratings are entirely up to you. okay, nobody's going to question well, nobody, I say the assessors, the only people that see your portfolio, unless you share it with your mentor. Nobody's going to say to you, why have you rated yourself as naught, or why have you, rated yourself as 2 here? Okay, so bear that in mind, and I wouldn't dither too long over the ratings. Okay, I think people could probably spend a lot of time thinking, oh, am I basic or am I good? I'm not quite sure what to put, right? Now, the first time you fill in your PKSB, your initial and current score will be the same. When you've done your first assessment and saved it, so you fill in your current score, okay, when you save that becomes part of your history. So and it's that tab that I mentioned at the top of the home screen. And your target rating is what you would like to achieve. Now, don't forget, if you're using retrospective evidence, your rating should be what your level was in the past. Before you submit your portfolio, when you've done your chartership journey, got your evidence all together, written everything up, before you submit your portfolio, you evaluate your ratings again. And this time, your current rating, your current assessment will be where you've reached now. And it may or may not be your target rating. Because and I should say also, when you start to fill in the PKSB, it will change colour. And blue will indicate you've achieved your target, and orange indicates your target is not yet reached. So you may have put in whatever section area you've chosen, you may have put an initial rating of 1, current rating of 1, with the target of 3. And then when you do your final assessment before submitting your portfolio, you might decide you are still at rating 1 there, or you've only reached a rating of 2. Right? And that's not right or wrong, as I said. There could be many reasons for this. You could have changing school priorities and thus changing library priorities, which have meant focusing on a different area. You might have changed jobs even. There could be a lack of available and relevant CPD. And sometimes I feel it's just a case of the more you find out about a subject, then the more you realise how little you know about it. So you may have put your rating as 1 when you started, and you want to reach 3, comprehensive, and then you undertake some CPD and you use that to impact on what you do. But doing that CPD has made you realise that you're actually not at a comprehensive understanding yet of that subject. There is far more than you realised when you started out on this journey. So you feel you've only got a good understanding now. So you put your current rating as good. Okay. The comments box is used to reflect on how you developed that area. You say how you applied your CPD and why, or if you want to develop it further, because you might want to carry on and become comprehensive, or you might decide you want to get to an advanced stage in that area. So you basically use it to explain how you progressed against your initial rating. And you could also add a comment regarding why you haven't reached your target if you want to. Okay. The assessors have no expectations with regards to your ratings or the areas you select. And you don't even have to have the PKSB assessed if you don't want to. You can choose it to have it part of your portfolio and have it assessed, but you don't have to do that, okay? You can just use it as a tool to help you progress. Now, I want to just talk about this is the last slide really, the PKSB reports, and that's at the bottom of that homepage, those 4 boxes you see, okay? So the latest update, these all say, you can see I've not done anything with my PKSB because I've lifted this from my own PKSB and I've got 0 in all of them. So this is not, so the latest update shows when you last updated the PKSB, how many areas you increased or added, and you can download a full report from here. Your development, that area, is useful to identify career planning, as it shows the areas where you are developing or have developed your knowledge and skills. And these are the areas where you've increased your ratings. And again, you can download a report showing just these. Your strengths are where your current ratings are above 2, and your rated areas, that's the report that you will use for your registration submission, as it pulls together all the areas where you've recorded scores and made comments. Okay, so 4 areas and that can be quite useful to see how you're progressing. But as I say, this is all minor 0. Maybe if I do this again in a year's time or something, I'll have something in those boxes. So I hope this has made the process a little bit clearer for you and a little less scary. Because that will is a bit sort of, when you look at it, you'll sort of think, oh, I'm not sure how to start with this. And I hope it's given you some ideas and guidelines on how to start developing your PKSB moving forward. So I see we've got comments. I'm going to have a look. Right, let me have a look. Help with me. Somebody said, yeah, Sarah's doing a session afterwards on reflective writing, which I'm going to, I'm looking forward to that. So, right, okay, then let's have a look. Same for my session. How far back do I have to? Oh, here we go. I've got back to, thank you. Let's have a look. Have we got comments that have been out? Because I see Sarah's been answering some questions, which is great. Because Sarah is also a mentor here, so I knew she'd be able to answer the questions. Light bulb moment.
There are a couple of questions down at the end, Barbara.
Right, I'll have a look.
First one is from Nick, and they're asking, you said you don't need to have your PKSB assessed, but is that frowned upon by the assessors?
No, not at all. Not at all. They don't. I don't think, they've got no bias, prejudice, whichever way. It's entirely up to you, really.
Excellent. Okay. And Rachel's asking, she's struggling to get it down to 10 to 12 areas, and she's ended up with about 30. Have you got any advice for her?
Well, I would look at where your evidence is the strongest. Because your reflective, the most important part, the PKS of your portfolio, and Sarah will tell you this, is your reflective evaluation. It's that reflective writing. And if you've got areas where you're struggling to write reflectively about it, then don't include those areas. You don't have to, you can take a project, all those projects, like those projects are listed with all those PKSB areas. The assessors aren't going to know that this project encompasses 15 PKSB areas. You know that, but they don't. So you can just use the project and your evidence for 6 of them. You don't have to use every single PKSB area it touches on. Does that make sense? So, look at where your evidence is strongest, where you think your evidence is robust and your evidence is good, and then and you can do some reflective writing on it, because that is the most important part they look at. If you haven't reflected, done that evaluative reflection, then it will get rejected, because they really is, Sarah's going to cover this next session. So 30 is a lot. They won't be impressed if you turn up with 30. So has that helped with getting down your 30? I don't. Yeah.
I'm going to talk out loud. I think it's just the idea of starting with a project. I think that will help. So I'm going to...
To be honest, when I look through the PKSB, and I think this is one of the things I've struggled with starting, when I look, I could tick almost every box. I could say, I do some of that, and I do some of that, and I do some of that. And then there are 80 sections. So but what I am going to have to do is actually think about, I do a little bit of something, but I do a lot more of something else. So the thing that I do a lot more of, I'm going to have more evidence on, and I'll be able to talk more about it and reflect on it more. And that's going to be the area that I end up choosing in the PKSB, rather than the bit that I do a little bit of. So, Do you have to show every PKSB? Yeah, you do. I'm going to say you. That's the process. They're looking at personal development. That's one of the criteria. The first criteria is personal development. So make sure, print off those 3 criteria and keep them by you when you're working on your portfolio, and make sure you refer back to the criteria every time. It's like we say to students, you know, you have the marking schemes for next year for any coursework, or when you're answering past exam papers, they give the teachers give students the marking schemes. This is what you'll get marks for. You need to show these. You need that criteria. You need to show that criteria in your evidence. And in fact, so what you can do when you write up your evidence is you can split it out. It's showing the 3 criteria, CPD criteria 1 under that section, criteria 2. How that impacted the criteria, the CPD impacted on your service, and criteria 3, reflective evaluation on it, how you're going to move this forward. Okay.
There was a previous question, sorry, from Mrs. D. Perrin. Sounds very formal, doesn't it? Who says, I filled out the PKSB before it was changed and has saved it, but was still short of a couple of areas. Would you advise me to start again or try and adapt it? Obviously, the PKSB changed.
Yeah, right. It has changed, but I don't know if you've been back into your PKSB, but SLIP have matched up the new numbering system with the old numbering system. So they've aligned them. So you shouldn't have to, get your head around what the new numbers are and change them all. The SLIP have done that for you. So I wouldn't go back. It depends how much you've done. If you've only done 1 or 2 areas and you may not be pursuing them, then I would sort of maybe think, right, I'll start from scratch. And if it's been a while ago, you may want to do that anyway. But if you've done a fair chunk of it, you don't need to change it. And as I say, if you go into your PKSB area, SLIP would have swapped the numbers over effectively. Right, okay, Jean. Right. Do you think you need to evidence a PKSB area more than once? No, you don't, actually. In fact, it depends on how much evidence you have. If you've got strong, robust evidence, then you only have to do it once. And Sarah done this. Look at what can be defined as CPD. Yeah, I always think, Sarah said we would look at what can be defined as CPD. But CPD, a lot of people think it's formal CPD, but even Twitter chats can count. You do not have to evidence the PKSB area more than once throughout all your portfolio. You just need to if it meets the criteria, that is the important thing. I'm going to bang on about this. You have to meet that criteria. It's the same as having exam criteria to meet. If you don't answer the questions in the exam, then you won't get the points.
There's a question from William Nash, Barbara, who asks how you can find a mentor. And I know there is some advice on that in the...
they've changed it recently. Originally, you had to find a mentor first before you could progress with anything. But now you can actually start your chartership journey before you found a mentor. And they've split the roles. I can't think what project support. What is it? Sarah might remember this. Is it project?
I don't think you need a mentor anymore.
No,
it's not compulsory anymore.
They do advise it, but
they've got their own advisors now.
Yeah. But what the SLIP advisors do is they will advise you on the process. What your mentors would do is maybe advise you on your evidence and the work you're doing, and perhaps because what I'd say with my mentees is I'm happy for you to send me what you've written, and I usually send it back with lots of questions attached. Why have you done this? What evidence have you got to show this? To get them to think about things in a bit more depth. The SLIP officers won't do that. They won't. They don't know your job. They don't know what anything about your role and stuff. They're really advising you on the process, but you can start this all without finding a mentor, so don't let that hold you back. You do need to, right, somebody said the chartership guide says that you need to include your PKSB assessment with all your ratings, and you do need to include it. That is part of the whole package. Okay, you need to include your PKSB, and it has to have all the 3 ratings, obviously. But you include 2 PKSBs. You include one at the beginning. You've got your history. You've got your one that you did at the start of your chartership journey, and the one at the end. But you don't. It's not assessed unless you ask for it to be assessed. It will not be assessed. But they need to see that you've used the PKSB to help your journey on. Okay, that if you look at, there are other documents you need to include. It's a personal record of your progress, but you have to have it included in your portfolio. Okay, so and if you look, there are other documents, aren't there? You have to have a CV, your annotated CV if you want to annotate it. Things like, I think, job description, things like that. So, okay. So, yeah, it is included. You have to use the PKSB. You can't just ignore it, I'm afraid. Don't like this. Are there any other questions I think come up that we missed? So... Right. So somebody's okay. Cool. That's good. Well, looks like
Barbara, there were a couple of.
Well, they're trying to work my
right at the end.
Yes, there's one on there, Barbara, from Janet. Janet's asking if she's messed up her initial report, can she redo the initial ratings, or will everything be visible to the assessor in the history?
I'm not sure about that, to be honest, because I've never actually done the PKSB. Well, Sarah might know. Sarah's typing.
Okay, no,
okay. She's
yeah, they will be able to see it, but you don't need to worry. And I'm hoping that I'll sort of allay a few things about this in the next session, because it's part of your journey. Yeah. I really wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, no, I would say that as well.
I think with the PKSB, it's really important to not look at it as some sort of monster that's been dreamt up by SLIP, but that it is a tool. It's a tool to help you plan your progress. It's just making your progress visible. And if you approach it in that way, it's supposed to help you determine what areas you want to demonstrate that you've shown real progress in your career on. So what have you learned that you didn't know before? And the PKSB is just there really to help you put that down on paper and select evidence to show what you've done.
Yeah, I second what Sarah says. Don't worry. People worry. I think people worry about the PKSB, and it's such a small part of your whole portfolio. Your evidence is far more important than what you put in your PKSB. And yeah, if you've mucked it up, if you've put it in and then thought, I've really mucked these ratings up. You want to be 4 and everything, and then realise, hang on a minute, that means I'm going to have to be an expert. You could, do another. Ignore that will be in your history, but do another one and put a comment to say in the comments box you've revised your rating. Okay. Somebody said that my organisation doesn't have aims and objectives, just a 5-year plan. Do I really need to write them? You shouldn't need to write out any sort of aims, objectives, 5-year plans or whatever. If you could do if they're available online, don't forget you're submitting your portfolio digitally now. It's an online document, so you can put in a link to it. If they're available online, then you can put in a hyperlink to it, or you can do cut and paste into a document. They're all sort of guidelines. This is the problem really, when they list what documents you have to have. I mean, I don't have a job description either. Because I sort of work for myself now, so I don't really have a job description. So you've got to be flexible. But because it covers the whole of the profession, every sector, it's hard to encompass every variation there may be. But there are going to be variations. That's the way of the world, isn't it? Okay. So I'm planning to set my.
There was another question, Barbara, a little way further up. William asked, are you aware of any other useful websites about chartership?
Right. What I would say is, if you want to look at more, go over some more, webinars and things, have a look on the Select website. There are, under that e-learning hub, and the Southwest have done some sessions on PKSB, on reflective writing, on all sorts of things to do with chartership, and they're available online to watch. If you go into it's my portfolio, and then it's the professional registration group. At the bottom of that page, there's lots of tabs, and one of those is through to resources that can help you with it. Do have a look on the Select website. There's lots of stuff on there. The only thing is that it's generic, which is why, and this is why we've done this, to try and relate it to school librarians. And I'm giving you those examples to show you in a practical way how you can relate what you do on a day-to-day basis with the PKSB. Now, obviously, if the member network has delivered a webinar on the PKSB, it's going to be more generic. But sometimes, just like anything, isn't it? It's a different learning style they have. So, watching something else, it might click something else again. Okay. Let's have a look. See, somebody's going to print it out and then work out what they want to do because they can't. That's fine. I print things out rather than work from the screen. So I would suspect that I might do that as well. Because the thing is, with the PKSB, there's too many boxes in it to fit onto a screen. If it was only 10 or 12 boxes, you could do it on a screen, but it's a lot.
That does appear to be all of the questions, Barbara. Yes. Might be a time to perhaps break up for coffee.
Somebody said I need to use this for my fellowship evidence. Thank you. Anyway, I'm glad it was useful. Thank you very much. I need coffee.
Yes. Right, thank you very much, Barbara. That was excellent, and I'm sure we're all a lot clearer about PKSB. And you can always come back and ask SLG, and we will pass the questions on to Barbara and to Sarah. Yeah. They're both on the committee. So if you do have any questions, use the chair.slg email address, and I will pass queries on if you don't know Barbara's and Sarah's own email addresses.
Yeah, I'm easily found actually because I'm online, aren't I? So somebody said the mist is clearing.
Sorry, I was just going to say very quickly, as you know, I'm at the beginning of my chartership journey as well, and Barbara has been a great help. But I have got a WhatsApp group, which Charlotte is on as well. So if people would like to join us on that, and we can work through all of these things together and support each other, I'm more than happy. If people want to email me at the info.slg@silip.org.uk and let me know that you're interested, and then I'll give you details of the WhatsApp group.